Hey foodies, and welcome back to Cooking with Kiana. So in today's video, I'm going to show you guys how to make brown stew pork chops. If you guys want to learn how to make these juicy pork chops, keep watching and subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell. That way you don't miss a new recipe every week. So here's everything we'll be using for this recipe. The correct measurement should be on the left hand of your screen. We're going to be using pork chops, grape tomatoes, a bell pepper and an onion, garlic and fresh ginger or ginger paste, pimento balls, fresh thyme, scotch bonnet pepper, Lawrys herb and garlic marinade, a Maggi bouillon cube, cornstarch, Sazon, black pepper, crushed red pepper, oregano, basil, and tomato spice blend, roasted rosemary, garlic, and sea salt spice blend, accent, and complete seasoning. Before I get into this video, make sure you guys look at the description box below. I will be posting the full recipe and step-by-step directions. All right, let's get into the video. So the first thing I'm gonna do is make the dry rub for these pork chops, and I'm gonna add 1 Sazon packet, a teaspoon of the garlic sea salt blend, 1 teaspoon of complete seasoning, and a teaspoon of crushed red pepper, half a teaspoon of black pepper, 2 teaspoons of the oregano, basil, and tomato spice blend, 1 teaspoon of sugar. Now, once we've added all those seasonings, I'm just gonna mix that in until it's well combined, and then we're gonna season up these pork chops. So before we season these, you wanna make sure you wash them off and pat them dry. And once I'm finished doing that, I'm gonna go in with 2 tablespoons of the garlic and herb marinade. And now we're gonna add that dry rub that we just made. And you basically just want to season these to taste. You can add as little or as much as you want, but it's impossible to add all of the dry rub. So what you do have left over, set aside because we're going to be using that later. Now I'm just going to go in with my hands and just massage that seasoning onto the pork chops. And we are going to be placing this in a Ziploc bag, and I'm going to marinate this for at least 2 hours. Now, if you have enough time, you can marinate these overnight, but if you don't, 2 hours is fine. So in the meantime, while I'm letting that marinate, I'm gonna go ahead and prepare all my herbs and vegetables. So what I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna take a piece of ginger that's about 3 inches, and I'm gonna remove all of the skin, and I'm just gonna go ahead and grate that up. If you don't have fresh ginger, you can use ginger paste. Just make sure you use about a teaspoon of that. So now I'm just gonna go and do the same exact thing with the garlic. Once I'm done with that, I'm gonna chop up the bell pepper. We're only gonna be using half for this recipe. Then of course, when I'm done with that, I'm gonna set that aside, and I'm gonna repeat the same steps for the onions. Alright, so now you want to take a half a pack of grape tomatoes, and I'm just going to chop those in 4. Make sure you use grape tomatoes and not regular tomatoes, because we want our tomatoes to be really sweet, not sour. Alright, so now that I am finally done preparing everything, we can get started on these pork chops. So the first thing I'm going to do is shallow fry these. And you want to make sure your fire is on a medium to high heat. And I'm basically just browning these on both sides. So once you start to see that brown ring around the bottom, that is how you know it is time to flip it over and do the other side. You basically want to cook these for about 2 to 3 minutes on each side. So now that these pork chops look about done, we're going to remove these from the fire and put on another batch. As you can see, I didn't put all 6 of them in the pan at one time. You do not want to do that because the temperature on the oil is going to drop, and it's going to take way longer for you to fry these pork chops. So now I'm just repeating the same steps that we just did. You want to fry them on each side for about 2 to 3 minutes. And this is what they should look like when they're all done. And guys, I'm telling y'all, I could have just ate them just like that. So at this point, you want to remove majority of the oil from your pan. You just want to leave enough to coat your pan. So now I'm gonna add in the onions as well as the ginger paste and the garlic paste, and you wanna add a teaspoon of each. Now I'm gonna add in the grape tomatoes and I'm gonna let that simmer for about 3 minutes. After 3 minutes, I'm gonna add in 2.5 cups of water and 1 Maggi bouillon cube. So now you just wanna make sure you stir that in well, making sure that bouillon cube dissolves. Once it dissolves, we are gonna add in about 2 teaspoons of the pork dry rub that we made earlier. And of course, you wanna make sure you stir that in as well. After that's stirred in, I'm gonna add in 1 scotch bonnet pepper and 8 pimento seeds. Guys, that's gonna make the flavor really come out. Then I'm gonna add 6 sprigs of thyme, and we are gonna add in those pork chops. At this point, we're gonna cover this up and let it cook on simmer for 30 minutes. I'm telling you, all those flavors are gonna come together and make for an amazing pork chop. So after 30 minutes, we're gonna add in the bell peppers and we're gonna let it cook for an additional 30 minutes. So while that's cooking, we're gonna make a slurry just to thicken up the gravy a little bit. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get a bowl and I'm gonna add 3 tablespoons of cornstarch. Then we're gonna add in 1/4 cup of water and slowly mix that in. You wanna keep stirring it until it's a smooth consistency and there's no lumps. Now we're gonna take that mixture and add it directly to our pan. We're gonna mix that in and you're gonna see the gravy start to thicken up a little bit. So I'm gonna let that simmer for like 2 more minutes just to let that gravy thicken up a little bit more. So it has been 2 minutes, our gravy is done thickening up, and this is what our brown stew pork chops is looking like. So now it's time to plate this. I hope you guys enjoyed this recipe. This would go great paired with some rice and pour some of that pork chop gravy on top. Let me know what you think about this recipe in the comment section below. Also, if you have any questions, be sure to leave that below as well. If you like this recipe, make sure you give it a thumbs up as well as sharing it with all your family and friends. Make sure you subscribe if you're not already subscribed. If you are subscribed, make sure you hit that notification bell. I post new recipes every week. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.